show, and I like John a lot. Like I said, we went to a fair number of his concerts over the years. So
How about Nancy? Did she like him as much as you do?
Nancy didn't go on this one.
Oh.
This was a boys' weekend.
Oh, good for you.
Boys.
We're live, Betty.
Yes, sir.
Got a few more minutes though, Dan.
Yeah, we used to go in and see John Prine, Earl of Old Town,
The
Steve,
Peg.
Steve Goodman, Bonnie Coldhawk.
Oh, yeah. Bonnie Kroloff was, did a seminar, not a seminar, a little presentation, had a little talk at the concert was at the Ryman, but then they had the show at the Country Music Hall of Fame where Bonnie Kroloff was there to tell some tales about the Fifth Peg and stories of Chicago, Johnny Chicago. So
Yeah.
I didn't get to that one because that sold out quicker. Did you used to go out that way, Wally?
Oh, yeah. Frequently,
Huh?
yeah. Gibsons, Bob and his brother, all the ones that performed at Old Town.
Yeah. Quite a story.
I caught COVID right after I saw you.
You did?
Yeah, I saw you at the Y. Was it Thursday or Friday?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So,
And then on Saturday I started coughing, and on Monday I tested positive, so I was in quarantine all last week.
so just coming out of that one, huh?
Second time or something.
Yeah. I've only had it once too.
I was hoping I wouldn't get it again, but
I went and got, you never got it?
No,
I went and got a vaccine.
I've had all those. I'm ready to go for the next one.
did you get the one in the last month or so? Cause there's one that just came out.
There's one that's just out now.
Yeah.
And they said, I think they said that's maybe the only one you're gonna need then.
Yeah, oh, that would be nice.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I keep hearing you're gonna have to get one every year,
well,
but you know, you gotta get a flu shot every year,
Yeah.
what's the difference?
whatever works.
Yeah.
This is, Matil.
Which one are we doing first?
Probably Mattel, I'm thinking.
Matil, yeah.
This is it.
All right, what do you think here?
Think we're ready whenever you are, man.
Okay, all right, fine. Okay, let's call the Oglesby Zoning Board of Appeals to order. Start with roll.
Day Fitzgerald,
Dan, present.
Dan Fitzgerald, sorry, Mike Coots,
Here.
Burton Lavens, Wally Markwart,
Here?
Brandy, you know.
I did her first.
Oh,
did
I'm
her
sorry,
first.
I'm sorry, okay,
That's
not
okay.
paying attention there. Okay. Okay, the first order,
Pledge of allegiance?
oh, we're gonna say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just for the reminder of that.
No problem, Dave.
Okay, the first order of business on the agenda tonight is a petition for a variance from Elizabeth Mattil regarding property located at 334 Elm Street in Oglesby. The record should reflect that notice was properly published in the newspaper on September 26th, 2023. And with that said, is Ms. Mattil present? Okay, so you are requesting the variance. If you would like to make a presentation, just to kind of outline the circumstances for us, we'd appreciate.
I purchased a pool back, right before the pandemic hit, and so then I finally got all that taken care of like a year later after the pandemic, and got the pool, pipes, water pipes under there that are vacant though, but they were worried about the weight of the pool possibly, because I think it's a fitting on it or something, but they're not used, but they were worried about that, I don't understand it all. Well, then I went and do in the back, and there's an easement that belongs to the city or something, that used to be an alley there years ago. And so then we went on the other side of my house, and that's where I wanted to put it, but they were worried that it might go over in towards the alley. That was, I don't know. I
That-
was told that's what I need to do, to try to resolve all this.
What do you need to do?
I've been dealing with it for like quite a while.
Did you need to be sworn in? I don't think so. Okay. So when you say the back of your house, that would be the east side, towards the
That
east,
would be the east side, right.
the property, okay, okay. And so you're wanting to locate the pool where on the property now?
Well, no, apparently I can't use the back where I wanted to put it, because I went to cut the tree down, there's a tree back there. And one of the neighbors said, you know, the guy was down there to do it, and the neighbor's like, she might wanna wait, cause that might, part of that might be on city property. And they have all the, you got it, Patty?
So this here, this is facing, so this is the alley, the easement she's referring to, comes behind her house on the east side. And then the water line kind of runs at a diagonal here, so this is why this is unusable. This here is a property line for this property. So this is where she's wanting to put her pool. And so the concern was that it was going to be like, we don't really know when it's going, how close it's gonna be to the property line was the concern, but it's definitely probably not going to meet the setbacks.
Yeah.
And it's obvious, it's going to be closer to the property line than the setbacks call for, which is why they were asking, she was asking for a narrow.
What would the normal setback be, Patty, do you know?
I think it's
5 feet.
Jim's here. 5 feet, Jim?
And the other obstacle she has on the north side is, that's a corner side, and you can't put anything on the corner side. So she can't put it in front, she can't put it on the north, that leaves her the back, which is an alley. So she's only left with this side.
Is that alley used, Jim?
I believe so.
Yeah, they use it, it's not, it's rare though, I mean, it's not a lot of traffic.
Well, she's got gravel paths, grass roads.
So it heads east and then curves around to the south, that alley?
It heads east and curves around to the south.
Okay. And the easement that runs on the east side of the property, I mean, what?
Right, that's actually, according to county records, that's still a.
Platted alley?
The city still owns it as an alley.
Okay,
We weren't able to find anything where that was vacated.
okay. You said, did you say in the petition that you had requested to have that vacated at one point?
Yeah,
And that was denied because,
Because of the water main.
oh, water on the north side?
The water runs in the alley behind me and turns and heads west on the north side.
So what kind of use does that alley get?
the alley that's there on the side of the house.
The one that curves
Not the
around?
one in the back, that used to be an alley, apparently.
The one that's on the south side and that curves around? I'm sorry, that's on the south side and then curves.
Yeah, it is used. I mean, there's people that drive on it. Not a lot, of course, you know, but this guy here, Dean, he'll use it on occasion.
The entrance to this garage is where? Is that, how does he get into that?
He goes down, a lot of times I don't hardly ever see him, but he does go down that lane.
What side are the doors on, Lizzie,
Yeah.
I think is what he's asking you.
What side of the
are
garage
his
doors?
garage doors
His
on?
garage doors are right here.
They face
Oh,
the alley.
okay.
They face the alley.
They face the
No,
alley?
No, they don't. This is, the alley coming from this way. Here's my house. And then the alley goes around here. and he comes down and the garage doors are open right there.
Okay, she says they're on the east side of
These
that
guys-
building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're on.
I'm sorry.
They're on the north-south alley, east side.
That picture right there, that garage,
This
That-
is north, right?
Right.
This is north. So the garage doors are,
Right
here.
Here, yeah, right,
Here.
right.
okay, looking at that picture right there, Dan, that neighbor's garage butts right up to the alley, what's the,
Well, this is where I'm thinking.
This is
I know, but what I'm,
He's
what
talking
I'm,
about
I
the
think,
neighbor's
yeah, he's
garage.
What-
talking about,
I'm,
that one's right.
you're
up
wanting to
the-
get close to the alley with a swimming pool,
Yeah.
and he looks like the overhang of his garage is zero, variance from the alley.
Mhm.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's close, right, sure.
I mean, that's why you thought that the doors open to that alley there.
No,
I,
maybe not.
I thought they
The-
might open here.
Yeah,
but apparently-
because it looks like the alley is right,
I mean, the gable is,
Yeah,
Kind
you
of the
got
weird
this
way.
one, you got this one.
yeah.
See, and him and his, roommate, they drive down, because then they gotta pull in, so it's a lot hassle for them to go around this way, and, then, you know, and they gotta go around that way.
Gotta do a 180.
Yeah, right,
Okay. Now, you have a fence located here,
yeah.
correct?
Yeah, yeah,
That's your fence, I take it?
yeah.
Yeah. And so is that in the way? Where's the pool gonna be
Right
seated?
here.
The circle.
You're gonna move that over here?
Yeah.
Okay.
We started over here, then I went here, then I went here, and now I'm there.
okay, in that location,
Take a look again, 'cause I'm
Yeah.
just looking at this.
in that location right there, does the radius of that pool go
right
underneath the overhang of your
Garage?
garage?
No, no.
It almost looks like
Well,
it
I don't
does.
know why that is. I brought the stuff into the grove because I
Okay,
can't, because I
all
know
right.
that I can't go past my garage. And I didn't wanna go past my garage.
And I do know sometimes when I do the aerial photography, sometimes there is a little bit of a shadow or depends what angle the camera's coming down. It's
Yeah.
Perfectly perpendicular.
Yeah, I
But-
don't know. The fence is pretty close to the alley.
Yeah,
Very close to the alley as I drove by just. And so that fence, is that on the line or is that,
that's kind of on the line.
that's on the property line? Okay. Okay.
It's kind of screwed up too, because see, this got me going here, where am I at now? You always get confused.
That's the
Here's my
pool,
garage.
yeah.
Okay, then they were saying part of this right here is city property, and then it goes on to my property again or something.
Yeah, it comes right through, the water main comes through there, they said. And it takes
Yeah,
off
there's
on-
a city alley there, Lizzie, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it's vacant. and
Yeah,
that would be all right
it's
if
not
there wasn't
being
water.
used, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's not vacated though, it still exists and it's a city right away.
Yeah, with the water
But if
main,
there's
if they
a
need to
water-
replace it, they're gonna have to dig,
yeah.
bring a piece of equipment in, so.
So this is an above-ground pool you're
Yeah.
putting in? And what, are any decking or patio or anything around it? What are you planning
Well,
to?
when that will come in the future here, but that would be right outside, a small little patio.
area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not real big, I don't need nothing big.
But that's not planned to be near the property line, is it?
Right. Not
That's closer to
impinging
your
on the
house.
alley, it's gonna be away from the
Yeah,
alley, yeah.
Right,
So
Closer
this,
to the house.
yeah, this is only the pool structure
yeah.
that would come.
Mm-hmm.
So the edge of the pool, the very edge of the pool would bump up.
It'd be, the reason,
Could.
you know, it's.
Could
it's
bump up
close.
to the
It
pool.
could, you know, I'm hoping now, the way the boys have been measuring and stuff, it's gonna be right there. And as far as the fence, I just plan on putting one of them fences right around the pool itself.
So
I
this,
would've never done this, believe me, if I knew all this crap was going on.
Lizzie,
I
this,
would've got a lap pool.
this
That's what I
dotted,
want, what I want for swimming.
so this dotted line here, what does this represent? Is it-
I have no
you
idea.
don't
I think
know?
that's one possible pool
One
scenario,
possible-
Dan.
yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah,
then
but
they
that would go past my
realized that
garage.
it would go in front of the garage, and I don't think an accessory structure is supposed to stick out past the main structure.
That line work is me.
You did that.
This circle, Jim, is what we're talking about?
Yeah,
That's
that
the
would go.
24-foot diameter circle. That's roughly where the 5-foot setback line would be.
The other one,
And-
yeah.
And this shows the pool touching the side of the house, right? That's what this circle is.
The side of the house or the overhang?
Well, actually,
From-
one up front, the dash one was touching the sidewalk.
Okay.
And then the second one, more this way, I pushed it just off underneath the overhang, and this is where we get down to almost zero setback. So this is where she wants it, right there. It's the only place it'll fit, it's right there. But she needs almost a zero setback to make that.
And you just said 24, but you meant 21, right?
It's a 21-foot diameter pool, but when it's built, it's 24 on the
Gotcha.
outside.
Okay.
Jim, while you're here,
Oh, okay.
while you're here, will you do me a favor and look at the neighbor's garage? What's your guesstimate of the setback on a permanent structure versus a pool?
It's supposed to be set back 5'2", but it's,
Right at the line, it looks like.
well, and his grandfather, that home's been there since the 1950s.
Yeah,
So,
Well,
Yeah,
they're
it's
not
Dean's,
talking-
This one probably too is very close.
and this guy's garage entrance is right here.
well, so the alley hasn't bothered the permanent buildings
Correct.
over all these years.
Not that I know of.
So
They
why
didn't
would it,
know it.
why would it bother the edge of her pool?
Right. Well, but she's the one at risk. So he comes around the corner and smokes her pool and
That would be my luck, by the way.
Well, I do
Well,
have
the same
question on
token
that.
for the other
Is
buildings.
the garbage
The other
out on the
structures.
main road, or does it come through that alley? You know, something large?
No,
Snow plows. How is this plowed? Is this opened in the,
I've never seen a
Dan.
snowplow ever back there.
He said that the way, because they plow with pickup trucks in the alley, in that alley, so he said that he doesn't see, because you've got the curve quite a ways before the pool, he didn't see why there'd be any issue with the plow.
any plowing? Okay.
And the garbage trucks don't go down the alley, they do
No.
the front.
It's not, I don't see hardly anybody, for somebody to go down the alley, it's unusual. The only person, the Matilles used it, because I have a huge family, and my mother passed, so now she left everything to me with the family. So they would pull in here and see I have that right there. It was a drive light, but I got it torn off. I took the concrete out. So there's not a way to, them to park there anymore. Instead of coming over to use the pool if I get it.
Okay.
All right,
Questions? Any more questions, Mike?
all
Molly?
good, thank you.
No,
Anything? Is there anyone else anyone else present that would like to be heard or speak to the board on this issue? Any input from the public? Neighbors? All the neighbors were notified? and
Yeah.
All that, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. No further questions? No consideration here? Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the phrasing of allowing or disallowing this, what would the phrasing be for, to have a variance of what setback? 1 foot or 0?
Well, I don't know, I guess that's for the, you know, the board to decide what are you comfortable with? If you're comfortable with saying that, you know,
Well,
you gotta
I
be
mean-
at least 1 foot off, or you got, you know.
I'm
that's
just
up for
asking,
motion.
I'm just asking what the, it says she would get it as close to the house as she could, but, I mean, we don't want it to, extend into the alley.
It can't, yeah.
It can't.
No,
Legally, it can't do
Right.
that.
Right.
But what I'm saying, it looks like there's 2 other items on the same map of what she's requesting that, you know, are at 0 or 1 foot variance.
Well, that might be hard to tell from the aerial photography and the fact that they're already, as Patty mentioned, or someone mentioned, that these are or Jim mentioned, these are grandfathered in. These are existing,
Aerial photography, that can be off 3 or 4 feet.
Oh, okay.
depending on the angle that they're flying, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, yeah, and those lines. So you might be, we're doing, we should, I don't know, I'm not sure that we can necessarily consider what's already there as to whether this will produce an additional. Lizzie, what do you, if you don't have this variance, if you don't have, what happens?
I paid for a pool that I don't have. That's what I'm doing.
And,
Cause I didn't know all this stuff before I got the pool, and it was 3 weeks, before pandemic that I did the down payment. It's a long story, because then I was, procrastinating about even going there, and like, like a year and a half after I had purchased it. So,
Looking at the shadows.
so then
It
I
looks
went
like
from there
the
and then
paint
I
is
got
up
the
here.
pool.
Okay.
So you,
No doubt.
it's basically,
this is
it
a
would be an
clean looking
economic,
line myself, right?
impact on
A
you
clean looking
because
line,
you
right?
own this
Yeah,
pool.
garage is right
That-
up on the
Alright.
property line.
That's your, okay.
This one's not far off.
And, yeah, this is further off by the view, and this would be no closer than this.
Right. Yeah, no, I think you're totally right about that. And it looks like there's about a foot here or so.
And this is a permanent structure, and
That's a temporary structure, arguably. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I don't think
Okay.
you're missing anything. So you could entertain a motion if you wanted to.
I'll make a motion to allow the variance, as long as the pool does not,
Go past 0?
yeah,
Impinge on the alley.
impinge on the alley.
So right to the property line.
I think she wants to try to
Keep it away.
Oh,
keep it
I
away the best she
understood.
can, so I would say, yeah.
And do we know where the property line actually is? Is that?
We found, she had somebody find two corners, I've been out and looked at them. You can't see from one point to the next, so somebody's gonna have to kind of paint the line on the grass, so she knows where the line is when she sets up the pool, so. And the pool will have to be, the west edge of the pool will have to be east of the front of the garage. And miss that line.
Difficult to find.
It's gonna be tight, but it's gonna be tight.
Okay.
Even you wanna buy a pool? I'll make the payments, Joe, I'll make the payments on it.
All right. So
Well,
there's a motion to allow the variance basically as requested. So, correct,
Correct.
Molly?
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Coots, or Mike Coots, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Wally Marcourt,
Yes,
Okay. So,
Well, that recommendation will be tendered to the council at its meeting following this hearing, okay?
thank you.
the aerial photography saved you.
Oh, my Lord. Thank you very much.
Okay. Second item on the agenda tonight is a request for a variance from Ryan and Kaylee Cienza Duncan regarding a property located at 132 Caitlin Court in Oglesby. Request for change in setback of the front property line from 25 to 30 feet. I'm sorry, from 30 feet to 25 feet. 30 feet is required in R1, and that is zoned R1 in that area there. Is that correct?
That's an incorrect setback.
Yeah, they're requesting 25 feet from property line be varied to 30 feet from the curb.
From the curb.
And so therein lies part of the difference between property lines and curbs. All of the city's setbacks extend to the property line, not the curb. Streets can move north, south, east, west within the city's right of way, but they're requesting that the 30 feet from the property line is the existing code, right, Jim? 30 feet from the property line?
Based upon the plat of subdivision.
Right. They're requesting it be 25 feet from the curb, is that right?
No,
No.
Okay, what's your request?
we're requesting it to be 30 feet from the curb, so I will give you my story. If,
Yeah, could you introduce yourself, please?
yeah, so my name is Kaylee Cienza Duncan, and this is my husband Ryan Duncan, and we are the property owners of 132 Caitlin Court. I want to start by saying that I'm a lifelong and fourth generation resident of Oglesby and brought my husband to this town, and it is unfortunate that what you're about to hear is what the city of Oglesby puts residents wanting to invest in Oglesby through. It should not be this difficult to make a lifelong decision and investment in our future. Our entire life and future is in the hands of the city, who has admittedly made several mistakes. These mistakes should not be at the expense of Ryan and I, who are taxpayers in the town. If you look around neighboring towns, there are many developments and houses being built currently. And to our knowledge, ours is the only home in the city of Oglesby this year. I want you to think about this as I tell our story. I have communicated with many people about this experience, and I owe it to my fellow taxpayers of Oglesby to know what's happening to their honest citizens like us. I hope after hearing this story, you will all do the right thing. If you need anything clarified or have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask at the end. The following information is considered a synopsis of events rather than an exhaustive list, of which are many. We turned in the building permit application with appropriate documentation on June 12th, 2023. We were told that they would present this documentation to Mr. Stefanelli and get back to us. We were being asked to submit architectural drawings to include plumbing drawings, HVAC drawings, electrical drawings, drainage drawings, truss drawings, floor joist drawings, and our house drawn on the lot. Mrs. Kleiner continued to state that I needed a plat of survey and architectural drawings, and that what I had submitted from my draftsman was not sufficient and needed to be bigger. I asked where to obtain the plat of survey, and she told me the county would have one. I contacted the county, and they did not have one on file, only a subdivision map. A consultation with an architect from Studio K in Princeton, looking at all of our materials submitted to the city, stated, in my professional opinion, you did not need an architect to provide you anything further. I contacted my draftsman to see if he could provide me the requested plumbing, HVAC, electrical, drainage drawings, truss drawings, floor joist drawings that were being requested. And he said in all the years he's been doing this, he has never provided such drawings and has never been asked to do that. His full-time job is a draftsman for many large cities, including Champaign, Bloomington-Normal, and Peoria, and has drawn numerous houses that are currently built in the city of Oglesby. The current city ordinance for building permits applies to both commercial and residential structures, which deems many of these requirements not applicable to residents. As presented above, there were several documents required of us that were not in the ordinance at the time of application. Those drawings included the drawing on the lot requested by Mr. Stefanelli, noting the setbacks, which was drawn and submitted notifying the city of our desired 30 feet from the curb setback prior to building permit approval. This is the document. Additionally, my contractor's licenses were not verified by the city clerk and or commissioner prior to building permit approval and or prior to the beginning of excavation. It was later determined, once the stop work order was issued, that my excavator, who was working under my concrete contractor, didn't have a current city license. Had this been verified prior to excavation and stopped right away, we wouldn't have started excavation. My contractor informed me that he was meeting with the commissioner and the building inspector on Friday, June 16th, and all left that meeting in agreement. Following that meeting and a final phone conversation with Mr. Stefanelli that afternoon, everything was noted as good to go, with phone confirmation from Mr. Stefanelli. The house was staked out on the lot prior to approval and verified to be 30 feet from the curb. I asked if we needed to venture down the road of a variance, and he said no. He sees the drawing right there, and it shows 30 feet from the curb. There should be no issue. The lot remained staked until excavation was started on August 8th. Excavation was completed on August 11th following significant delay due to the building permit approval process going beyond our planned start date of June 19th. Our contractors were then forced to take other jobs as it was unknown when the building permit was going to be approved. On August 15th, we received a call from Brian Spelich saying that the city received a phone call about the placement of our house. The city could not find the drawing of the house on the lot that was given to them with the permit application. I received a copy of all the documents of this application that I submitted to the city that included this drawing. The city clerk's office claims they never had that form. Although Mr. Stefanelli referenced that form in a previous phone call and said we were good to go. I had submitted a FOIA request for variances on the street. I received the document back that there are none currently, although there are other houses in violation of the setback the city is requesting. A specific example of this is the house of the address 122 Caitlin Court, which is believed to be 25 feet or less from the curb. However, there is no variance on file. This information was obtained from the contractor of that address who built that home. The city would have access to that information, and it is believed that Chamlin has measured some of the driveways as it was witnessed by myself seeing the employees from Chamlin walking with what appeared to be a laser to measure other driveways after measuring on our lot the same day. We informed clearly our planned setback for our home, and the city approved the building permit with the stated setback. In a meeting on August 16th, Mrs. Kleinert stated that the city is acknowledging that they made a mistake in issuing the permit, and Mr. Stefanelli agreed, and that is why they want to remedy their mistake and would like me to follow this ordinance, thus moving the house back 9 feet entirely to be 25 feet from the front property pin. I asked if we could get a variance, and both Mrs. Kleinert and Mr. Stefanelli were adamant we would not receive a variance. We submitted the variance request on August 24th with a chronology of events to get to this day and supporting documentation. Also submitted was BLH Concrete's estimate to move the foundation back and ensure longevity of the home for structural safety. On September 19th, we received a letter via email that provided structural engineering recommendation from city hired Scott Brown from Willett Hoffman and Associates with 3 options for ensuring structural safety of the home. The city made their decision to choose option B and seek their own anonymous estimate from a concrete contractor for option B. This estimate is significantly different from the estimate from our concrete contractor. The city's anonymous estimate was estimated to be around 1/3 of the cost of ours. And the city's estimate didn't take into consideration dirt hauling away and bringing back, as they requested to put the dirt on the side of the home where there is no extra room on the lot. Extra footage of driveway costs, extension of the sewer water sump pump connections, and cost per recommendation of the city for Midwest testing to oversee controlled fill. Completing the home as requested by the city, which could have been corrected before the building permit was approved, could end up costing Ryan and I tens of thousands of dollars for a project that has already faced rising costs of materials and high interest rates. The financial burden of this mistake on us would be incredible and unaffordable, a mistake of which was not our own. Currently, we are delayed over 4 months from when this all began, which is now affecting the costs of materials and deems estimates invalid due to constant fluctuating costs. When Mr. Stefanelli called me to inform us that there should be no issue moving forward, and I asked to get a variance at that time, he reiterated to me that he saw this paper that noted the setback and we should be good to go moving forward. This is the same paper the city was unable to find at the meeting, and they claim they never saw. The building permit packet, a copy of what was submitted originally, was submitted with the house setback drawing of the variance request with an additional copy for ease of reading. It was submitted with all my variance request paperwork. We followed all of Mr. Stefanelli's requests, paid hundreds of extra dollars to be in compliance to receive our approved building permit on June 22nd, 2023, was approved. All of the information needed was communicated and approved. We should not be going through this, as we informed the city accurately, and now we are paying the price for the city's mistake. How much taxpayer money has already been spent on attorney fees, structural engineering fees, and other costs for something that was already approved? We would like to keep the house where it is, as we asked specifically before we got the building permit if we needed to file a variance. And it was agreed upon and specifically noted that we were placing the house 30 feet from the curb on the drawing that Mr. Stefanelli requested. Why are we doing this now? We would like to keep the backyard even with the rest of the homes on the street to ensure privacy for both of our side neighbors. The only portion of the house 30 feet from the curb is the garage space. The rest of the house is at least 20 feet further back from the curb. Moving the home back significantly reduces privacy for the south neighbor's backyard, as the south windows on the home would be pushed into the backyard. Should this variance not be granted, the city will incur tens of thousands of dollars to remedy a situation that could be left as is, not hurting anyone or anything. Thank you for the opportunity to present the timeline of events for building our home in the city of Oglesby, and look forward to the ability to move forward building our home per our city-approved building permit.
Thank you. May we see the document that you referenced?
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Thank you.
That document was provided also with all the variance documentation that I had to submit.
This was provided at what point?
Right before I got my building permit approved.
And this was given to, it was attached to the request for the building permit?
Was it, yep, it was part of our building permit packet, yep. I would not have received my building permit without submitting that because Mr. Stefanelli required it.
Sticks 24 feet out in front of the house. Let's see. This is all yard. This is all front yard. This is the garage.
And so it's 30 feet from here rather than from here. Right here, 30 feet from curb.
Well, that's what this
Or
is.
the curb.
Yeah, I thought it was 25.
This is the
but
property line.
This is the property line, right? This is
And
the curb.
And the ordinance says 30 feet from the property line?
Correct. The plat of the subdivision actually says 30 feet from the property line only. That's what Jim said.
So the variance they're asking for.
I don't know if this does anything
Yes.
for you guys as far as visual, but.
So the basement's on the right, the garage is on the left, is that what's going on there?
Yes.
And that's your neighbor's house to the south,
That's to the north.
To the
to
north.
the north? So essentially, it looks like it's placing the whole garage in the setback area,
Mm-hmm.
except a foot or two. To the right of the red line.
So is the house to the, that would be
North.
going north, okay. That is 30 foot off property line? Do we, is that,
Do we know that?
would
Jim?
that be a 30-foot setback?
I forget whether it's 25 or 30. So the ordinance that was adopted in 2018 makes the setback 25 foot. But the plan of subdivision can override that, make it further
Further.
back, or the plan commission can reduce it and approve the plat. In this case, the plan of subdivision is set at 30 feet. So their request is to make their setback roughly 15.5 feet from the property line instead of 30. And there are some homes on that street that are at 25 because when they're reviewing the ordinance or the permits, they looked at the ordinance and didn't look at the plat. Council consents to look at the plat.
Okay.
You have the plat to check.
The
I've
city,
been telling that for a while.
the city requires a 25-foot setback from the property line,
From the property.
correct?
And the land development code clearly defines that in multiple locations in the land development.
Wanna look at this again?
The subdivision put that setback at 30 foot
At 30,
from the property line.
correct.
Okay. And this, right, where would that garage would end up 15 foot from the property line?
15.5 feet, so somebody that would park a Ford F-150 pickup truck, or somebody who would park a Buick Enclave, the back of those cars block up to half, if not all, of the sidewalk, depending on how close they park to the face of the garage.
The sidewalk is closer to the road on that side of the street, so that's not true.
Supposed to be 1 foot off the property.
That sidewalk is closer.
I got a question. You said you went to the county to look for the Heritage Field subdivision second edition, and they didn't have a copy of it?
They had the plat map, but then, not a plat of survey for my property specifically.
Right, yeah, they wouldn't. But they would have a plat that would show you the setbacks for your contractor to set that at 30 feet off the pins.
Well, when I came in here to ask them, they told me that 30 feet from the curb was the setback. And so that's why we did that, that's why we picked the house that we picked, that's why we did all those things. We wouldn't have done that if we knew all that, so. And again, you look around on the street,
And again, though, if they verified our excavator had the license, it's
they just didn't work that they're supposed to do.
Can you elaborate on that? If your excavator had been, if you had verified that the excavator had a license, that would have made a difference how?
They
They
could have
would've
stopped
started.
it.
They could've
They
stopped
would,
it
they
when
would have
it
stopped it
started.
before it started and we wouldn't have excavated. So if we wouldn't have excavated, this wouldn't be as difficult of an issue, but now you have, like you said, the garage is now in the basement.
So, it just so happened that the excavator, if you had hired an excavator with a license and they had started, they would have gone by, you would have ended up with this anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the fact that the excavator didn't have a license is really not the cause of this, it's just, it might have been,
It could have contributed.
you know. But if you had hired a contractor with a license, they would have gone ahead anyway with
It
that.
just should have been verified before we started.
Well, that's, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
The contractor with the license might have known what the setback requirements are and what a setback means.
Could have. Yes, that's true. Okay. Now, this is, you have this, Mike?
This was, yeah. I
Yes.
went and looked at it.
Okay, all right. Okay.
This is our original building permit packet, if you would like to view that.
I don't know if there's anything I have a,
It's just
let's
in here.
let's take a look here.
You'll see that it's in there.
Okay, okay, thank you. That was a lot of information here. So, I'm sorry. So, the remedy to this is very expensive, obviously, okay, you have to refill the hole and make sure that it's sound
Very
enough to build on.
expensive.
Pardon me?
Yeah, it's close to between 35 and 40,000.
You have received estimates on that, okay.
Yes, from my contractor.
Pardon me?
The city's estimate was 12.
The city's.
But they're
But
not
it didn't
taking into
include
consideration
several
the extra
things.
driveway now,
Okay.
not
The
considered
driveway
driveway.
and all that other stuff should have been there if the house had been
Yeah.
put at the right setback.
Right.
So that's irrelevant.
Oh, well, I don't think that the cost, you know.
It's hardships, you know,
Yeah,
they're being faced with.
what the cost, what the actual cost is not, I think is beyond the scope of this board here. The question is, do we short circuit that? Do we just say, okay, we're gonna correct that by going ahead and building, in which case there is no economic impact? Okay, or, do we require some remedy, which may be very expensive
Mhm.
to you personally?
Yes, because if the city told us they would pay for the whole thing, but if the city is only offering to pay what they got their estimate for, that's not fair to us.
Well, again, that's not, I don't think it's up,
Yeah.
you know, it's difficult for this board, the board can't decide
Zoning
whose
board.
estimate, yeah, that's not the zoning board's call. Our call here is whether or not, the setback changes. And regardless of what that costs, that's between you and the city, okay? But, you know, obviously, the economic burden on you as to whether or not that is, an intolerable burden is,
Mhm.
part of the decision-making that goes in as to whether a variance should be granted, okay? But we also have to look at the surrounding properties and what other people in that neighborhood think. Good questions, Mike, any other questions?
No,
Could you elaborate just a little bit when you said about when you went to the, or at the assessor's office, what would have been shown on that plat? That
The building setbacks are
They
on the
would've-
plat
they would have been on the plat?
for each lot, yes.
Okay,
and they're off the property line.
off the property line,
They're
okay.
off the
Not off the curb.
This is what they would have gotten. If they had contacted the county and asked
Did you get a copy of this?
I have it.
You did get this.
Yes.
And at what point did you get this?
We got it, at the time we got the building permit around in that window, that week window.
Okay,
So they're lot 63.
yeah,
And on the side, kind of in the middle, says building setbacks, front yard 30 feet, side yard 8 feet, rear yard 40 feet for zone A,
yeah,
which is zone A for single family dwelling district,
yeah,
lot
okay,
61 through 84.
okay. So at the time that the building permit was issued, this was in your possession?
Yeah, but that's why I gave him that documentation to specify that I wanted to be 30 feet from the curb, and he told me I didn't need to get a variance at the time, so.
So the mix-up at that point was curb or property line.
That's what it seems to be, yep.
So there was an error made in
And there wasn't.
that
even-
determination?
Yep, and there wasn't even agreement by the city clerk's office at that point.
Okay, yeah, it just says 30 feet here, it doesn't say whether it's
Correct,
property line or
that's correct.
curb. Okay. Okay.
But,
14.04.032B gives the front yard setback description in the Oklahoma code. It clearly states it's from the property line, as does section 14.14.020, which is terminology page, reads setback means an area that must be maintained or open as open space between a building or structure and the property line.
Right. That's the city ordinance. That's the city's building, the codes. This document doesn't specify that. This document.
but it does show your 60-foot right-of-way, which
Yeah.
is your property. This is not the road the road is within the 60 feet.
And the sidewalks as well, Mike.
Right. So, I mean, this dark line you're seeing
Yeah.
is the property lines, that would be the pins,
I see.
okay, to make the right-of-way
Okay,
of the roadway.
okay. Okay. All right. I'm sorry,
Go
Joe.
ahead, I have one thing for you.
Go ahead.
So just to be clear, if you grant this setback, it'll be roughly 15.5. The next house to the north would be able to come back and say, okay, they're 15.5. The subdivision plat says it needs to be 30. The land development code allows me to make it split the difference. So they could make it 22 instead of 30. Without,
I own that lot. We do. So it's right next to
Yeah,
hers.
because you can do an average setback on the front,
right.
based on the
So,
address.
I guess what I'm pointing out is, this not only affects this lot, but the next one.
Future construction on that
There's
street.
only 4 lots in there that are left in.
There.
So the footprint, excuse me, go ahead.
Yes, could you please identify?
Yep, I'm Kathy Stiaz, my husband Al, we own the lot next to our daughter, clearly. This has been a horrendous process. I can't even explain to you how awful it's been. As an Oglesby resident for 40 some odd plus years, and my husband his whole life, it's just, you can't understand why. The sidewalk is on that side of the road is about a foot or foot and a half maybe from the curb. There's plenty of room to park vehicles without interfering sidewalk. So his statement otherwise is not correct. The other side of the sidewalk is 10 feet from the property line. That's a different issue. The house that we're referring to down the way, the 122, we both talked to Mr. Snyder who built that home. That house is only 15 feet or less from the property pin. And it's just down to the north of the other house that you see there. It's the next house down, I believe, is only 15 from the property line.
So there's a greenhouse.
Is that you?
Greenhouse, the next one down.
Is that you?
No, we
That house?
don't have a house where we're.
It's empty.
Okay,
So that's what he's referring to, that could affect
okay.
somebody else. But like we told the commissioner and the mayor, there's 4 lots left there to build. Now isn't the time to make a big, deal about everything. If you
Yeah.
wanted to do these new ordinance about doing the way the building permit, like she was required to give things that were never provided before. That was all Mr. Stefanelli
Yeah.
decided he wanted that.
Yeah.
And it should have never been, because the ordinance hadn't been changed or adopted to include those things. So they were asked to provide things that weren't part of that, which was out of the realm of what should have been. And they knew, he knew, everybody knew, Brian Spelch was at that meeting, their builder was at that meeting, Becky Kleiner was at that meeting, as was Mr. Stefanelli, that they came out of the 30 feet from the curb was all agreed upon. Mr. Spelch was asked several times about an ordinance, he said, no, he else has ordinances on that lot. And also, variances, there were none. There's several violations of houses being not far enough from the property line, everything. So this isn't a new issue. We've talked to plenty of people that have said real estate issues have been an issue because they have to get certain documentation that has not been in place that should have been in place. I feel like they're trying to settle all this on their backs, and that's not fair. This is a new couple, young, trying to build a house, and they're living in Oglesby and be good, upstanding citizens, and is this really what we wanna do? Is it that important, 9 feet difference? You know, when you're gonna cost, I mean, housing costs have gone up $80,000 for the same type of house since 2 years ago. And also, interest rates are high. This is a huge, huge financial burden for them too. And I think we need to consider that, not just, you know, all these other things that are going on. And second, I don't think an average citizen ought to have to be a lawyer to decipher the ordinances. That should be told or spelled out in a document presented when you get the building permit. That was not done. And they were told, Mr. Snyder also verified, he was told 25 feet from the curb. And he had to get the Peru City engineers and several other people to come to take care of that whole issue. And that's the house that's north of them, that's only 15 feet from the property line. If that, he said.
The precedents that you're referring for, the mistakes that were made previously are, you know, are obviously something that I understand your concern there. But going forward here, I mean, Mr. Kleiner's a point that the ordinance does allow for averaging front setbacks along a street. So that if you, as the example that he gave, if you have a setback of one house that's 30 foot back and another that's only 15 foot back, then another house can be constructed there in that block using the setback of 22 and a half feet. And then that becomes part of the average. That 22 and a half feet becomes part of the average, so that it even lowers the setbacks on other properties. So going forward, we have to consider going forward also.
I understand that they already have an approved building permit, and she asked, I was there with her every minute as a witness, because I know how these things go, and everybody said to her, she does not need to go a variance. In fact, Brian was told not to tell him to get a variance, by somebody on the city. And so they decided to apply for it anyway, because, and I can't say enough about Mr. Stolich. He's a wonderful human being, and he's got the city at his heart. I truly believe that. And it's just a shame that we have to do this over 9 feet. And we tried to keep the back of the houses even, so that, you know, everybody wants their backyard for privacy. That's where you have family functions and whatever it is you do, not the front yard. So the idea that keeping her house was even where it's at, it's even with her south neighbor, even with the neighbor on the north, that's on the other side of our left. So, that was the consideration, and that was the reason she asked, because she has windows on the south, and they will be overlooking the south neighbor's whole backyard. So he will have no privacy at all, if we meet this 9 feet. So those things were all taken into consideration, besides the fact that on many, I can't even tell you how many we asked about the variance, and was told no. And then when Mrs. Kleiner and Mr. Stefanelli said at the meeting that my husband also attended, that they were adamant we weren't going to get a variance, and I'm thinking, they are not the variance for it, I'm sorry, that isn't their decision, it's, you know, you guys' decision to make. And, that's disappointing that would be done, you know, they're just trying to build a home and be here in Oglesby.
Well, we will ultimately make a recommendation to the council. It will be their decision. Are there other, I'm sorry, sir, yes, could you identify yourself, please?
I'm Al Cienza, and I do own the lot. If you look at that picture, what nobody takes into consideration, this could all have been avoided before we excavated. That thing was marked for 2 months. Nobody told us any different. 2 months. That shed right there, and all the sheds back there are on the city easement in the back. You keep moving these houses back, you're now on the city easement in the backyard. So the houses don't fit on the lots anymore. And I own the house, the lot next to it. This put me behind, because I was gonna build my house this year. I can't build my house till this gets settled. But the city didn't consider that pile of dirt you're looking at, all has to be moved. You can't get the excavator back there. The pile of dirt in the back has to be moved to move the house back 9 feet. Where are we gonna buck the dirt at?
You can't build your house because
This is on hold. That dirt's actually piled on my yard.
it's on your yard, okay.
And I think the city thinks that we're gonna allow that if they wanna go back 9 feet, that's
Instead of having a 3-foot footing, now you've got a 9-foot footing. That all has to be filled and settled and compacted. You're talking a lot of money. It's not just, oh, throw some dirt in there and tamper with the backhoe.
That's one thing that actually the city didn't provide. They provided the test, who is it, Midwest Testing will oversee it, but they didn't tell you how much it's gonna cost.
Yeah, again, those negotiations, those costs are something that the board can't.
And I'd like you to consider the fact that for 2 months, this was marked. Why didn't somebody tell us you can't put it there?
We didn't have anybody approach us and ask us anything
Well,
at all.
they wouldn't have realized that until you started digging the hole.
No,
No, it was stakes, the house was
It was
drawn with
stakes.
stakes.
Lines
I had to
all
have it
around.
done for the permit to be approved,
Okay.
Who's statement?
my contractor.
So
And then Brian
they didn't know
Spellich,
about this.
yeah, Brian Spellich and all that they went out, they all agreed at that meeting that they met before we got our building permit approved.
It
They
had to
all
be-
agreed,
It had to be staked before the building permit.
or I wouldn't have got it.
I mean, I don't wish this on anybody. I don't even wanna build my house now, to be honest with you. That's sad, 'cause I've lived here for 65 years. Both of my children live here, he lives across the street. This has actually made me ill. I'm a person who hates confrontation, doesn't like to fight with anybody, doesn't cause any problems. And this has actually made me physically ill, to know what these poor kids are going through. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wants to be heard regarding this matter?
I'd like to speak. My name's Chris Yenza, I'm Kaylee's brother, I'm the brother-in-law. I built across the street a few years ago. I had some things with the city myself where things were approved and then tried to go back on it later. Not near to the extent that they've been through it. But I also teach at the school here in town, and I don't know if you have noticed, but young people aren't exactly flocking to Oglesby at this point. And so we gotta decide, what message do we wanna send to young people like myself, my wife, these two, that want to build in Oglesby? Are we gonna squabble about something, by the way, that was pre-approved? It was all approved. Are we gonna squabble about that and a few feet here and there and tell the world? Cause by the way, her contractor also said who was my contractor as well, he had never seen anything like this before. And he questions, does he wanna work in Oglesby anymore? So now you have contractors questioning, you have young people questioning, do we wanna put up with this? We're gonna squabble over these, instead of trying to move the city forward and encourage young people who did everything they could, because the question I asked the city at the time was, what more was I supposed to do? As the citizen, as the homeowner, as the taxpayer, what more was I supposed to do? I did everything they told me to do. I tried to do it the right way. None of us, especially, 20, 30-year-old kids are gonna know every single ordinance, front and back, right? That's not our job, that's the city's job. They approved it. So at that point, when they've approved it for somebody, and you've done everything they told you to do as a young citizen, and then this is what you have to put up with as a result, you have to ask yourself, why would you live in Oglesby? Why would businesses come here? Why would citizens come here, young people especially? Why would contractors want to work here? Because what they see is a group of people that would rather spend their time squabbling about 9 feet, and then they'll tell the taxpayers to pay at least $12,000, if not more dollars to cover that. By the way, this is a burden on the whole city, not just them. Instead, you could just approve and say, okay, let's go with what the original plan that was approved was. No taxpayer money wasted, none of their money wasted, and we're good to go. And we have a new young couple that's excited to build a home in Oglesby. So, in my opinion, I think if we're gonna continue as a city to focus on these kind of things over and over again, we're not gonna see an increase in the city growing. It's gonna keep declining. So we have to ask ourselves, what's the real importance here? Forest for the trees. And by the way, it'd be different if they didn't do everything they were supposed to and get approved along the way, but they did. So, I just wanted to state my opinion on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to add something else too. There was no covenants on that lot, not that lot, that paving court. And I called the county 3 times and I kept being told, oh, yes, they were. And I called the county the last time and she told me, no, there wasn't anything filed. I said, I'm just telling you what people are telling me. There's been things allowed on that paving court that were never supposed to be allowed. You weren't supposed to be allowed to buy 2 lots. You weren't supposed to be allowed to do any of that. then guess what? That's what you hope. I mean, it's not their responsibility to pay thousands of dollars at the expense of you guys. It's just not.
Okay, thank you for your input. Okay. Is there anyone else that,
Say one thing.
yes, could you identify yourself, ma'am?
Vicki Anderson. I've seen the city meetings and squabble over things like some of the commissioners, not you guys, some of the commissioners squabble over getting the mayor a cell phone or just little, that's too much money. But us taxpayers are going to be paying for some of this to push back this house, because he said it was, what, $10,000 to $12,000? The city said that they were gonna pay for that. So it's, I just wanna reiterate, as a tax-paying citizen, it's not just them, it's us being, putting our money just to push back a mistake that was made by the commissioners. I mean, I'm a teacher, like, if I go to, I don't know all the ins and outs, if I'm providing everything to the people to give me my building permit, I'm trusting that, oh, they said I can build, okay, well, my contractor's gonna build, that's not their job to know all of the ins and outs. They did what they were supposed to do, and I just think it's really discouraging, because I don't know, I would not want to build a house. We live in Oglesby, but I certainly wouldn't want to build a house, because this has been a nightmare for them.
Thank you for your input, ma'am. Okay, so, the issue, and I appreciate the concern, the issues that folks have had with, the difficulties that you've faced. I'm sorry for the obviously terrible inconveniences here that you feel that you've, endured here. But, once a building is built, I mean, that's gonna be there for a long, once that's built, it's built. And, we have to take a look at the impact on the neighborhood and what that might do to the surrounding, property, and what might happen going forward. So there are other considerations that we have to take into account here. Okay.
What,
So-
I have a question. I'm not, in your, reading your preliminary thing, what has been offered to you to rectify the mistake? Is that
You don't mean in a dollar amount, in terms of what they will do?
what the city wants them to do to rectify,
I think what the city
Where
wants
we're
them to
at.
do is to go back 9 feet. But what would have to be done construction-wise?
well, I think evidently the city's made an offer to have that done.
Yeah. So what does that include? Yeah.
They made an offer, but not for total compensation. In other words, they should absolutely pay nothing for this.
If you would like to review, this is the packet that they sent us. It explains what they're offering, it gives us their dollar amount estimate that is anonymous.
To correct this.
Yes, and then the structural engineer. I will say though, the city chose their option themselves. We were not allowed to pick what we wanted to do for our own home. There was 3 choices. They chose option B, they got their own estimate, and none of it was discussed with us.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
do you?
No,
Could
I'm
you
just-
briefly sum up what the 3 options were, because that I don't know what those 3 options are.
So, they're not very easy to understand from just a general layman's, understanding. Option A is provide a foundation with full height walls for the garage foundation. This option would provide bearing on similar soil strata. The garage interior will require controlled engineered fill placed in lifts and compacted. That's option A.
So that's the point that was already made about the soil compacting
Yes,
and everything.
and
Okay?
they agreed to pay for Midwest Testing to come oversee all of this. It's gonna be timed backfill. And option B is provide a foundation as planned with shallower garage foundation walls. This option will require controlled engineered fill below the garage foundation placed in lifts and compacted. So that. And then, and it said that it can be, they believe that it could be done structurally sound, but option A or option B are the options.
Okay, so
there's only
there's two options.
There's 2.
Okay.
There's
Which
2.
option would you have chosen option A? Is that what you?
So we have not decided any of this because we want the variance. So This is a discussion that would have to be had with all of our contractors, all of the city. I mean, there would have to be agreement because my contractor still has to do their own work. So I can't just take the city's estimate for its word. I still have to pay my own contractor. So whatever he charges still has to be paid to him. If they only agree to pay 10,000, the rest of that's falling on my shoulders.
Oh, well, that, again, that's part of negotiations that we would not,
So
This
none of,
board
I'm
would
just
not
saying, none
Right,
of
we
that
will
has
understand that, and that's
been,
why we're here for the variance.
that's why
to
we
avoid all
started
this.
step one,
well,
variance.
yeah, I guess the point is that there are ways of remedying this. The cost of the remedy is not the consideration of this board. I don't believe that it
I
is.
understand that, but they were asked, several times they asked about the variance and they were told no.
That's understood, that's understood, ma'am. But there are remedies available. This can be corrected, okay? And that has not been, it can be corrected two ways, I guess, and maybe there are others. But on the surface of it, what I'm hearing is that a way of correcting this is to just grant a variance and go ahead and do this, which is there forever. The second way is through a construction to refill the property and do whatever whatever needs to be done to make the ground a solid substrata to build on. So there are two options to correct, at least two options to correct this.
Can I say something on that?
So,
Well, let me ask you a question though. Would you want to do this, or would you want to have the opportunity to build your home the way that 99% of the people in the world build their home?
Yeah.
Do you want to have to worry about the longevity of your foundation however many years from now because it was the city's mistake? And my insurance, by the way, won't back any of that.
again, there's some.
That's a hardship.
You know, and with all due respect, ma'am, some of the statements, the points that you're making, you know, the insurance company, you're saying your insurance company, you've already talked to your insurance company and they will not, what? Insure the house or?
Like if something happens to the foundation 10, 15 years from now, they don't cover it, just because.
Because of this?
Yes, if you have to.
Correct.
I have one other thing to add, man.
Yes, ma'am. Sir.
It's October 17th. When you say negotiate, you ain't gonna do this year. This hole's gonna sit there all winter. You can't pour concrete to be
We have
something.
a loan, we have lots of things waiting.
Loan, bank, the contractor wants his money for doing what he already did.
This is, beyond that scope of what you think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I understand you say it's not your negotiations, but everything you do impacts it. Because if this isn't granted, and if she hadn't asked if she needed it and wasn't told absolutely no, then I understand your position, but otherwise I do not.
Well, it's not my position. I'm just wanting to point out that the politics of this and that there are issues that are not the subject matter of the board's decision here. Our decision is whether or not a variance should be granted because of certain criteria that's listed in the zoning ordinance. And one of those criteria is whether or not there is an undue burden on the property owner. So, and you've made that case, you've made that case. Other criteria that, you know, need to be considered is, you know, what happens going forward with future buildings? And what happens, is there an impact on property values, which I don't know whether there necessarily would be. I don't know that.
Property values would go up because there's a home there.
And her cost of building
Ju-
is considerably higher
Yeah.
than what the other homes are.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna go down.
Yeah.
Not gonna go with that statement.
Again, the appearance and general character of a neighborhood is a matter of concern to people who live there. So, just a matter that should be concerned, or considered here, so. Okay. You have any other questions, Wally?
No, I obviously would like to see the situation rectified, with options and, you know, that you've been given or whatever, but, you know, as far as what you said, I agree with, that our decision is how much of a variance, you know, we would allow. You know, they mentioned there's some at 25 foot rather than 30. this is gonna be 9 foot or
15.
15?
and a half.
15, so I mean, that's pretty substantial. I mean, we've had, I've been on this board when a mistake was made and a foundation was poured, and it had to be rectified because there was a mistake made on the original footprint. So, I mean, I understand mistakes can be made.
Who paid for the mistake? The city.
Well, that's not the zoning board's, you know,
I just wanna be clear that this driveway is still 30 feet long. It's 5 feet longer than the one that's north of that house,
okay.
which
But,
is 24 or 25 feet.
but all I'm saying, as far as the zoning board's concerned, you know, we have to make our decision based on those variances. The financial aspects, although I hate to see them fall on you, it's got to be worked out, you know. You talked about your insurance, there's liability insurance, you know, there's errors and omissions insurance, there's a lot of insurances that can be affected by this, in the process of trying to correct the situation. And,
If you don't do something with this now, that hole, what you do there, now you're gonna talk added costs. You can't leave that hole sit there all winter. I think it's gonna be solid come spring.
No.
So now you're gonna talk extra added costs, not just what you've already got. Because this has took 4 months. This has started in June.
Yeah. You know, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with a lack of information here. There's things that I just don't know. The construction, the statements that you've made about construction, what's required to rectify this, and the costs of it, and the insurance issues, those are things that, you know, your insurance has told you already. They will not insure your property. I mean, those are things
No,
that,
that's not what I said.
they will not insure what, just the
If-
foundation
If
or what?
something like were to happen to the foundation in the future as a result of this having to be moved, it doesn't cover it.
And that company that said that is
It's any insurance company, but State Farm,
State Farm,
any insurance
a
company.
local agent?
Mhm. Yep, John Feeney, State Farm's office.
So, I'm just thinking about this, the only wall that would be affected would be the front, if you moved it back where it should be, right?
Yeah,
Cause
the
the
only
back would be in the
garage-
solid, sides are dug correctly, it would just be from that red line, so all the backfilling would be in the front of the
The
house.
whole house has to go
So
back.
we're talking the entire home.
Right, but they have to excavate it to virgin ground, so
Right,
you
but
wouldn't
the
have
whole
a,
front of the house is
The,
on
the,
Bison
the
Creek.
side goes to Chimpy has to be, got a notch there, right? So you gotta re-notch
Oh,
all
the
of
whole
that.
front of the house has to go back 9 feet, not just the garage.
Sidewall would be different too.
Because it doesn't offset like this in the front. That whole house, you can't change the plans of the house, but it changes the roofing and the trusses and all that stuff. You can destroy a whole new house, you can't do that.
Like your point is you have an existing hole, and if you move the property back, you're just
Yeah.
going deeper, you're just,
That's what I
you
thought.
have to
Slide in the
excavate on the back of the house. It's only the front wall where there would be refilling.
No, that's not true, because if you see the notch there on the north side, that notch now becomes a big hole. That's not a straight line across the north side.
It's offset twice.
This notch at the top,
Yeah,
Mhm.
the next one.
which is,
where there's
well,
a
you
shadow
would,
there.
you would be filling there.
You'd be moving that back and have the big line, that's another wall, it's gotta be, not just the front wall, the side wall also.
I'm not sure I understand that.
that's probably where the porch sits, am I right?
it's this little notch
Some of it
here.
is porch, but a lot of it is house. Our front porch is pretty small.
So if you're moving the whole thing back, there's this little notch in addition. So this little piece of wall here would have to go back 9 feet.
Yeah, okay, okay. You feel you know enough on this?
No,
You feel you know enough on this?
Yeah.
I think they need to have another meeting with their contractor and the city folks to try to iron out how to rectify that.
We're gonna wait another month or two.
So we're gonna do this next year.
Well, the default, our default position would be for us to adhere to the zoning code. And to make that exception, you know, we want to be fully informed about what we're doing here and what, you know, what the long-term effect of that is, because, you know, you make a decision, they're used as precedents, okay? When you grant variances in a specific neighborhood, well, then you're granting variances to everybody going forward because you've done it once.
But you are
So-
just really unfortunate there are
so-
violators who don't have a variance.
So,
Well, that's the sins of the past, I guess, that we have.
There's a house
It still
down
matters.
there closer, and they didn't get a variance. And so now we're gonna punish us because now Mr. Stefanelli wants to change all the ordinances, is that it? You know, this seems unfair. Like I said, this isn't a row with 20 more lots to be built on, that's not the case, there's probably 4, I don't know, off the top of my head.
Between Denver and Mexico.
Well, there's one down the road the way. Now you're gonna try to correct it on the back of somebody that's just trying to build a home to start their future.
yeah.
And you know, this is winter coming. That hole, it's gonna be more of a cost to sit there. So the longer we've already been delayed 4 months. And this isn't our doing, none of it. The city did it from the very beginning because they requested more information that was by ordinance, which delayed the building permit to be approved, busting the contractors because it didn't get approved on time, took other jobs because that's what you would do. And now, you know, with the, and contrary to what you guys think about, you're required on the building permit to put your contractor so the city can verify their licenses. So the kind of like nonchalant attitude about not making sure those are permitted so that you could stop them from morning of instead of waiting until something like this is done is really not good. I mean, that's the whole reason you ask for those licenses and
You do your job,
permit.
basically.
You know, and now you're gonna say, oh, it doesn't feel hard, no, it is a big deal, it's a thousands of dollars big deal. And that's the thing, if they had stopped, and then all of a sudden, on one day, we get complaints about it after the house is already excavated, that's what we were told. You know, that just seems all kind of ironic after the fact, that, oh, by the way, well, you know, people had plenty of time, when is it after they get the building permit that things are, okay, this was approved, this is the way it was, we were asked, I couldn't even tell you how many times. And now you
Yeah.
wanna keep delaying it, and you're going through winter again, you can only pour concrete so late in the year, if you don't know, you can ask. You know, and now concrete is a shortage because we are entering winter, and you're talking about lots of costs.
The cost of concrete, that's what I'm for right now, it's crazy.
And now you wanna delay a variance request?
Appreciate your input, thank you. I don't know if any member of the board is prepared to make a motion, but we'll entertain one for either granting the variance, denying the variance, or tabling this pending further information. We can do that, correct?
Correct. Those are your only 3 options.
Why not? I think the only rational option for us, with what we're aware of, is to table it. I know they don't wanna hear that, they wanna move forward tomorrow, but, I think there's a lot of legal issues here, that need to be cleared up. And in the end, we still have setback issues.
Isn't there only a 60-day process for a variance to be decided upon? I
Yes.
think we're hearing that early on.
Yes.
So requesting all that information, trying to get the city and everybody together is almost impossible. Because I know we've tried to do this before, and it turns into a fiasco.
Well, I think you'd rather use up your time trying to legally settle the matter than have it be denied
A legal issue.
because,
Thousands of dollars and months of time. We don't have that. We're up against time here because it's been gone on for 4 months. Is that really necessary?
They've had time to
Drive over
had their
They
time.
don't have 30 feet, they don't have all those things in their house.
What information are you missing? Like, what do you need?
I don't think we're missing information. For us, we're looking at, where it's gonna end up being built, and it's not according to the ordinance. So you're asking us to violate the city's ordinance to go ahead with this house because there were mistakes made. And I'm not blaming it, I'm not saying you made the mistakes, but that's basically, you're here asking us to violate the city's ordinance for setback, or to give you a variance, which is really a substantial variance, when you take in the things he explained.
There's a house out there that has less.
Well, I understand you,
So, I mean,
and I'm sure there, and the point was made about Oglesby. I can assure you these issues take place, zoning issues take place in LaSalle, Peru, and all the other cities around here.
Yeah, it's not so much a request for additional information, it's verification of information. The insurance issue that you raised, the construction costs that you raised, obviously there is a debate as to whether or not the remedy has been proposed is not satisfactory to you. The construction remedy that has been proposed is not satisfactory to you.
the city has their estimate and has had it for a long time.
And that is not satisfactory to the petitioners. Is that correct?
No, I'm talking about their estimate.
Ma'am, I'm addressing the petitioners. The remedy that the city has proposed and offered to pay for is not satisfactory. Is that correct?
I have not visited any of that information because I wanted the variance to be granted, and I was told
Yeah.
that they are separate issues.
But they lumped it in together. as one.
They are separate issues. I understand and I appreciate the distinction that you're making there. However, to grant a variance that is a substantial variance, that is contrary to both the zoning ordinance and to the subdivision plan, okay? And to grant that variance without properly considering remedies that are available to you, I personally am not in favor of that. I think that we should, the default position of the zoning board has been just to adhere to our ordinances and not grant variances unless there is a good reason to do so. You presented some very good reasons tonight. Your presentation was very good, very well organized, and you provided a great deal of information. However, there apparently is another side to this. This can be remedied through other construction means that you have not considered.
But you just said that really you don't get involved in that, so really isn't it your job just to?
It is not our job to negotiate with
So
the,
I'm sure you've issued variances for greater amounts. Obviously, if the house down the street just did what they wanted, they didn't need the variance.
well, I don't think they, okay, ma'am, they did not request a variance. The fact that mistakes were made in the past, and I understand what your point is there, but the fact that mistakes were made in the past cannot be the justification for making that mistake again. And so before we proceed to grant that variance, it seems as though we may want to consider all remedies before going to a permanent remedy that is in violation of the ordinance, in violation of the plat, of the subdivision plat, and that may present, may not be in the best interest of the appearance of the neighborhood.
So I have a question. So that means that if the city tells you one thing and then they make a mistake, then it should be on the.
Once again, ma'am, I'm not here to negotiate. I don't think that the board can involve itself and say that the city is responsible and therefore we have to grant a variance because the city made a mistake. I appreciate the stress that the family has been under. I understand this, but I don't think that can be, at this point, the sole reason why we should not consider all possible remedies.
So you're saying you didn't pursue the three options, that you decided to go ahead and try to get the variance?
Well, the problem is, we were proposed a certain option, we never had a say in it.
That's,
Never had a
and,
meeting with the city.
and you
no.
didn't,
They
you
never
did,
contacted
They
us
won't
for a meeting,
talk
they
to
won't
us. Okay.
talk to us.
All right,
How are
and-
we supposed to remedy it?
well, I understand what you're saying now, but the point is that we're not prepared to change the ordinance to that point. In other words, I think you need to take that and meet with the folks that provided that to you and negotiate those options with them.
Well, we were told that we are not allowed to communicate with them, so
Yeah, they don't answer, they have the.
they don't answer any of my questions, they had the police chief call us, they, you know, it's hard to negotiate when there's not working communication.
Okay. I think we need to, the chair will entertain a motion on this variance request. Anybody got an idea there? How to phrase that? Okay. Can I make a motion? Didn't
No,
the chair make a
you
motion?
can't.
Can't do that.
You can't?
No, gotta come from one of you guys.
I'll make a motion to table this information and let them pursue the options with the city.
Can we have some kind of timeline there, or is this just open-ended? Cause like Robbie gets this.
I don't think we have the ability to put a timeline on the city.
And this is just, we get our documents back.
We got the packet from the city, they may do that.
Okay, so motion to table the discussion on the Stanza Duncan variance request pending their further negotiations and discussions to consider other remedies. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Dan Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mike Coots,
Yes.
Wally Marcourt,
Yes.
There being no further business before the zoning board, the meeting, motion to adjourn. Made
So
by
moved.
Mr. Marquardt.
second. Who did second?
Mike, you second?
Okay. Dan Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Mike Coots. Wally Marcourt.
Yes.